I'm going to start with drummer Greg Norvis of Hepcat. Additionally, he's a singer and a fantastic keyboard player. Come forward, my youth. Continue clapping, man. Singer, songwriter, Karine, the Nike of Dancehall Crusher, and no facts. You thought it was going to be all guys. No, this is not a boys' club. I wasn't sure to be more efficient. I guess I have to do this, right? Keyboardist, DJ, Matt Parker of Donkey Show, and the Adjusters. Legend. Drummer, DJ, fitness guru, Nina Cole of the Cover-Ups. Reggae stylist and Ska. What? Wow. She brought all her friends here tonight. Drummer, visual artist, Oliver Charles. Really and truly a household name in Southern California and worldwide. Originally of Ocean 11, Ben Harper, The Innocent Criminals, and Gogol Bordello. Keyboardist, singer, writer, producer, Paul Hampton of the Skeletons. The long time and enough respected Paul. And last but definitely not least, multi-instrumentalist singer, Scott Copperstein. Did I say his name real? Of Real Big Fish and Little Man Band. I may have said it before, I'm going to ask you one more time to give yourselves a warm round of applause. And I kid you not, I really and truly have a special love for early arrivals because I've gone to places where I talk to myself on stage. So really, I bow in reverence to all your early arrivals. Really and truly, thank you for coming out. We have lots of questions to ask. Don't get nervous, because I'm already nervous. Leave all nervousness to me. So everyone, please talk about the influence of your personality of two-tone versus Jamaican music, ska, rocksteady, and reggae, versus mod, ska, versus punk rock. A long question, right? Take it either way. For all seven. Well, you know,
so what was the question again?
Influence?
History of music,
yes.
all at once.
Oh, yeah, please talk about your influence, about how two-tone, ska, rocksteady, and Jamaican music, and mod and punk influence you over the years, well, and especially during the adolescent stages of your career.
Okay. Well, for me, it all started 40 years ago.
No kidding.
1983.
Give a round of applause. Wow.
So I was at Orville Wright Junior High. That's in what I call Deadchester, California, which is Westchester. And I'll never forget that day. It was summer months. It's pretty warm outside, and I was in PE. So everyone had their gym uniforms on, you know, shirt, shorts. And I'm sitting there taking a breather outside. And here comes this guy walking by. And it wasn't just walking. He was more like strutting his stuff, right? And this guy had a stingy brim on, wraparound shades, this black trench coat, skinny tie, black slacks with loafers. And he just walked by, and I was like, dude, what the heck? Who is this guy? You know, because I'd never seen anyone like that before. And on the back of his trench coat, you had that skanking man, Walt Jobs go, you know. And I was like, what? What is that? And by him, it said ska, ska. And I was like, what is ska? I was like, is that SKA, like an acronym for like a secret society or something? Or what is it? You know, it's so mysterious, but so cool. I've never seen anything like that. And at the same time, I had print shop. And I had a friend who was making stickers at the time. And he was making stickers of that same logo, the Skanking Man, you know, checkers and everything. And on the sticker, it said the specials. And so he came up to me. This guy was selling them for $1 a pop, you know, little entrepreneur, right, junior high. So he comes up to me. He's like, hey, man, you want a sticker? Just $1. And I look at it, and I'm like, dude, this is like that same guy that I saw like on the PE field. What is this? And who's the Specials? And he's like, dude, you don't know the fucking Specials, dude? They're the best band in the world, man. And I was like, really? I was like, what's ska? And he's like, the Specials is ska. He's like, dude, you got to check that out, man. I'm telling you, dude, you don't know what you're missing. And so I'm like, oh, okay. You know, but at the time, I was a total new waver. I was into like Duran Duran, Billy Idol, Boy George, Culture Club, you know. So it's like I was into my own thing. Although ska was like there, it didn't really catch on yet. Because 2 years later, 1985, I run into my cousin Rob at one of these family parties, like potluck things. And here I am, Mr. New Waver and all this stuff. And I hadn't seen this guy since like 4th or 5th grade. He walks in and he has this crazy 60s cardigan, avocado green with these stripes down the side. He has like this Fred Perry shirt and like a wraparound shades, nice 60s slacks and loafers. And I'm like, what the heck? I was like, what is that, dude? Like, man, that's so cool. But like, what do you listen to? And he's like, well, basically, I'm a rude boy. I listen to ska. And I'm like, whoa, wait, ska. There goes that word again. And I'm like, the Specials is ska, right? And he's like, yeah, the Specials, Madness, Bad Manners, all that stuff. And I'm like, dude, this is so crazy, man. Like, a couple years ago, I saw that, and I'm like, dude, I have no idea what this stuff is. And he's like, oh, dude, it's so cool, dude. You got to check it out. And I'm like, well, where are the Specials playing? Like, are they playing anytime soon? And he's like, no way, man. They broke up a long time ago. And I'm like, well, how can you be into a band that's not around anymore? It didn't make sense to me because I'm all into the latest and greatest top 40, you know, Billy Idol, New Wave, all this stuff. And here's a guy into a band that's not even around. And he was like, no, the music is so cool that it doesn't matter if they're around or not. That's how good they are. And so I was like, you know what? You got to take me, you know, like wherever it is you're going to get those clothes and whatever it is you're into, I want to be into that. It was just that cool that I just had to do it. I didn't even know what ska sounded like, right? But
you're already hooked.
Yes, I was already hooked. Just the image alone and just the vibe, I was like, man, that's all me. Let's go. So he takes me to Melrose Avenue. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with that place.
Yeah.
But right in Hollywood, back then in the 80s, it was the only place where any subculture kids could get their stuff. Right. Yeah, Poser. Cowboys and Poodles.
Cowboys and Poodles, yeah.
War Babies, all that stuff. They're all there. That's where all the subculture kids shop. Punks, mods, goths, everybody. So he brings me there, and I'm telling you, at the end of that day, I had everything. I got my own spingy brim, got wraparound shades, I got the trench coat, I got that crazy obnoxious patch on the back from Poser.
And when did you get a record?
I did. Okay, that's what I'm getting to next. I had $7 left to my name, all right? And I'm like, oh, shit, I got to get music, right? So I'm like, where can I find ska? And he's like, it's right here. So we go to this place called Vinyl Fetish. Who knows Vinyl Fetish? All right. So they have a tape section in the back, and there's a little divider that says ska. And I'm like, dude, here it is. So I look, and of course, I'm looking for the Specials. And I find it to the cassette tape. I'm like, whoa, dude, the Specials, yes. And then right off to the side of my vision, I see this little tape on the spinner rack. And I'm like, wait, what's that? And I look over, and it's Dance Craze. The soundtrack to Dance Craze. Now, if you guys know the cover of that thing, it's like as ska as you can get. Right? You got that cool pant leg with the brogues, checkered socks, you know, black and white checkers all over. And I'm like, wait, that looks kind of ska. And I'm like, okay, so I pick it up, and sure enough, on the cover it says, "The Best of British Ska Live." And I'm like, whoa, man, okay. And I look at the logos, the Specials, Bad Manners, Madness, the Body Snatchers, the Selector. And these are bands I've never heard of before, but I'm like, dude, this is all British ska. And the frugal part of me, I take after my dad. I'm like, wait, I have the specials here, but I have another tape here that has like 6 or 7 bands on it. And I'm like, I'm gonna go for the gold. So I took Dance Craze, brought it home, and mind you, I'd never listened to ska before, right? So this is the first time I've ever heard ska. I put that tape in and I pressed play, and I don't know how many of you guys know that soundtrack, but it starts with the specials, Concrete Jungle. And the very opening notes, it's all weird and ominous. You hear this boom, boom. And then you hear this crowd just rising up. Then everyone starts clapping like, specials, you know? And the drums come in, and then Terry Hall comes up and he's like, I'm going out tonight. I don't know if I'll be all right. Everyone wants to hurt me. There's too much danger in the city. And I'm like, holy shit. It's dangerous and adventurous to be a rude boy, to be into ska. And I'm like, man, I'm sold. That's it, dude. Sign me up. And I was like, and that whole album, I was completely converted. Man, I'm telling you, dude, like one by one, that album is still a favorite of mine to this day. And one last thing, I met a stranger. We played at the Supernova Ska Festival a couple years ago in Virginia. Afterwards, I was at the hotel, and everyone's having this little party downstairs. And here's this guy with a jean jacket, and he has a Dance Craze patch on the back. And I saw him like, dude, killer patch, man. And he turns around, he's like, dude, you know this? And I'm like, do I know that? That's my life, man. And I ended up talking to this guy for like 2-3 hours just about Dance Craze alone. And if that isn't a sign of how impactful ska can be, then I don't know what is.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So what you're saying is this guy was wearing a trench coat on the PE field?
Yes. That was the crazy thing about it, because, dude, it was summer months, it's blazing hot. All of us, I was sweating in
I'm just
t-shirt
kidding, I'm
and
familiar.
shorts.
I know, that's how we did it.
And that's part of the
trench coat
sacrifice
mafia.
that when we joined the scene, it's like, come on, dude, you're in Southern California, dude. It's like sunny all the time. And when I was a rude boy, even when I was a mod, I mean, I had to force myself to wear that parka, even though it's like 85 degrees. You know, and everyone thought I was crazy.
Over
like,
a
dude,
suit.
you're wearing an Arctic parka?
It's not
But I didn't
Manchester
care.
in the freezing winter. But
Right. But I didn't care. That's how devoted I was. I was like, dude, I have to represent. It was that important to me.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Karina, your story.
Well, I grew up in England. I was born and raised in England, and so a couple years before you, well, actually, my parents and my mom, and my stepdad were really into Toots and the Maytals, Bob Marley, Desmond Decker. We had the Jimmy Cliff soundtrack, The Harder They Come. So I grew up listening to a lot of that anyway, which definitely got me into it. One of my mom's earliest memories of me singing is me just sitting in the corner while we were having a family party, and I was singing all the Wailers parts only, just like focused on the Wailers, you know. So definitely it's like growing up with that pretty early on. But then as a preteen, I had my older brother was a mod, and then he was a skinhead, and then he was into kind of rude boy stuff a little bit. And you know, the first time I really kind of connected for my own personal connection in a different way, just from my parents listening to it, was seeing Althea and Donna on the Top of the Pops, which was just like magical to me. You know, it was like, oh my God, they're just brilliant. They're so fun. They're hilarious. They're adorable. I love this song. It just totally just blew me over, you know. And then I got into the Specials, which was you know, my number one band, and that kind of got me into punk rock too, because that collaboration of the ska and the punk thing, it's, you know, to this day probably still my favorite band. And so then when I moved to the States as a teenager, kind of looking around for people that I could connect to was pretty hard, because everyone was listening to Duran Duran, which I hated. I already hated it because I was a total rude girl. So I was like, and everyone's like, oh my God, you're from England? Do you like Duran Duran? And I was like, no, I fucking hate Duran Duran. I like ska. Does anyone know what ska is? Nobody knew what it was at the time. I mean, that I was like in high school with. And then I found, my group of people, and I was in Berkeley, and there was the Gilman scene, which, was a lot of, that's right, a lot of these guys played there, and but even before that, in the early '80s, but like and the mid '80s, I guess, just like kind of getting it, in touch with that scene there. So that was some of my foundational stuff, like early
Wonderful.
teens. Yeah.
You mentioned Alti and Dana. Just for the record, for those of you who don't know, in 1977, two schoolgirls were coming from school, stepped into Joe Gibbs' record, and made a record then and there, and the rest is history. Became a massive underground hit in London in 1977.
It still kills every time.
There you go.
It
All right,
kills.
so
Uptown
right.
Top Ranking is
Yes,
yeah.
yes. We shall move.
Yeah. So that was it. Especially as a young girl, just seeing two women up there doing it. I mean, of course, Body Snatchers and lots of,
And was so
Pauline
unusual for
Black.
Jamaican female to
Absolutely.
be in the limelight like that.
Yeah, and they were totally making fun of the whole situation because Top of the Pops is, lip syncing early days, so they're just kind of goofing around as well, and that it just caught me. But then it was the specials and following all that, and then moving to the States, just trying to find, those were the only people I felt like I could connect to. Was like someone who understands this ska and punk scene. So that's what kind of.
Who wants to go next?
All right, I'm not going to tell you my whole life story, but like, there was one moment in junior high school. I had just gone to this new junior high school in San Diego, and I was in one of these, like, there was these little kind of middle rooms in between the classrooms, and you remember those little like mono cassette players they had at school. I don't know if you're really old, you might remember these little mono cassette players they used to have in schools. They'd learn you for like listening to books and stuff. And one of these older kids at the school was playing me this music, right? And it's like and there's like people shouting "naked woman, naked man," and it sounds like they're beating on trash cans. And I thought it was the most hilarious thing I'd ever heard. I laughed out loud. And that was the specials, Naked, Stupid Marriage. And my sister told me more about ska music, and I went through all the two-tone records. And then when I kind of got burnt out on those, I started just listening to pretty much anything with Hammond organ in it, and I was listening to like the Contours and like even like Jay Giles covers of 60 soul tracks, and then and then I found out about mod, and I read this article about like first I look at the purse and the kind of music that the mods were listening to, and like their sense of style, and that just really hit home with me, and that's been a strong influence on me, my whole life, and I still listen to 60s rhythm and blues and lots of like 60s world music, French, African, anything that's got like a little bit of soul and funk in it,
You guys are all intellectual giants. Thanks, Matt. Nina.
Okay, so my story started around junior high as well. Also Westchester, so two people from Westchester on the panel. And my older brother was into music. My whole family, I have a musical family. My dad was a musicologist. And I was in a band with my brother. So I started playing drums in the junior high band. And Tunnel Vision was our name, and we were nothing to do with ska. But thankfully, my older brother didn't mind his little sister tagging along. And a lot of us and our friends were into Riot Girl at the time. We wore vintage clothing, and one of his friends was like, "You look like a rude girl." And I thought, well, I don't know what that is. What is a rude girl?
I beg your pardon?
I know, I want to know.
I'm very nice.
And, yes, no Google at the time, so, learning a little bit more, asking friends, like, well, what does that mean? Oh, they listen to ska. And so, next question, what's ska? So learning about that. Mixtapes were a thing back then, so thankfully my older brother and his connections, I could get a taste of what ska was. And early on, I started getting drawn towards vinyl records too. I think the first ska album I got was two-tone. It was Madness Baggy Trousers. And I got, what else did I get? But the record bug started quickly. And it wasn't easy, though, because there were ska sections, but also not having much money in those years. Mixtapes were usually the way that I went about learning about more music. And we had someone try out for our band who was my Rude Girl mentor, Becca, and she was a Rude Girl. So when she tried, I was like, oh, you know all about this. And thankfully, she took me under her wing. She took me to my first show, which was the Specials and Let's Go Bowling at the Palace. This was the early 90s. And soon, thankfully at that time, there were bands like Hepcat and Jump with Joey who were playing that 60s style sound. And with my also passion for vintage clothing and that sound and my Rude Girl mentor, I went towards the traditional ska scene, which is, LA did very well and does very well, but trying to get that sound of 1960s Jamaica, but through this lens of Los Angeles. So that is a little bit about how I started. And then in terms of DJing, I'll cut it off after this part. One of my mentors was Nancy Yahiro, who was a Northern Soul DJ, and there weren't many women DJs at that time. So to see her out there doing her thing, going to a lot of Northern Soul dances. So I also liked 1960s soul music, 1960s mod, and later psychedelic. My DJ name is Nina Reggae-delic. So that started the journey that has taken me decades now.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you mentioned Los Angeles musicians trying to get that sound down. They have it down to a science, more so than any other states in the 52 states. Los Angeles stands at number one.
Yes.
When it comes to recreating that original sound. Los Angeles.
Masters.
We move. I have no preference. Who go next?
Hello.
Oh, you're on, man.
Yeah, I'm on. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
My introduction to ska actually came kind of backwards. I grew up in a household with a West Indian drummer for a father.
You should tell the audience who your father was. Very
my
famous.
father's name was Chili Charles. He was a drummer from Trinidad and Tobago. And growing up in the late 70s and the early 80s, he was playing with a group called the International Reggae All-Stars, which consisted of Fully Fullwood, Tony Chen,
Legends.
George Hughes, and at the helm was a man named Jack Miller. Those group of musicians is also known as the Syndicate.
Soul Syndicate.
Yeah. And but growing up, I was introduced to a lot of reggae. So my mom was here tonight, and my dad would take me to, and my sister, and my wife and my nephew. I went to a lot of reggae concerts growing up. So, for instance, like my mom and my dad took me to see Yellow Man when I was like 9 at the amphitheater.
That's where the corruption started.
Yeah, that's where the corruption started. And Black Uhuru, Peter Tosh. Like I grew up seeing all these great reggae acts, and by the time I got to junior high school in 1987, I've heard of Fishbone, but I was actually introduced musically to Fishbone. I've heard kind of a couple things, but I really fell in love with them in 1987. That first 5-song cassette, right? Man, that just blew me wide open. And that was my introduction into ska. From there, then I heard about the Specials, and of course Madness. I'd heard from just kind of pop radio, Our House and whatnot. But from there, I went and got This Our Two-Tone, that cassette, and Dance Craze, and I kind of went crazy with it. And I remember going to my dad, and I was like, this is like really fast reggae. And I was like, did this come first? And he was like, yes. And I was like, how the fuck did the Specials come before like all of these reggae greats and stuff? And it didn't make sense to me. And my dad was like, no. This is ska here. And so he introduced me to the Scotalites. And from there, I really went crazy, and I think I drove my parents crazy. That's all I listened to. It's all I played, and you know, yeah, that was my introduction.
Wonderful,
to it,
wonderful.
Wow. Mine isn't as quite as nostalgic as yours, seeing Yellow Man at 9. I mean, my goodness gracious. So mine is, I think mod and ska for me was kind of like I took those two together and turned it into, I was like a Frankenstein mod ska, kind of both. You know, the clothes, I probably looked like a hobo because I didn't really, you know, I did kind of like Greg, like I didn't hear the music first. You know, I saw people and I was like, oh my gosh, those guys look cool. Who are those people? You know, and my first cassette tape was The Selector, and Too Much Pressure, and I bought it because, you know, the dude's in a suit, and I'm like, oh, suit music, and I bought it at Licorice Pizza. Remember Licorice Pizza?
Yeah, licorice pizza.
I took that cassette home, and I grew up around the piano. My mom played piano, you know, so. But I remember just hearing the upbeats on the organ, and I was just enamored. Like, oh my God, what is this? And then from there on, man, I think I went out, and then I got really entrenched to the scene from just meeting friends who were in scooter clubs, going to scooter alleys, hanging out with people in like Go Fast Scooter Club, and like you know, everyone from like the Inland Empire and Orange County kind of migrated, and then, you know, it kind of cultivated just that whole scene. But that's kind of where my journey started, it was a mixture of mod and ska, because I had friends who were into like the jam, you know, which I loved the jam, you know, and then, you know, the Purple Hearts, you know, you had like power pop and stuff, but then I liked ska. But then back then it was like, you can't be ska and mod, you know. What's wrong with you, poser? You know.
Choose one.
So I had to choose. I chose ska.
That's right.
All right, the end.
Nice. Last but not least.
Oh boy, last but not least. You know, I first have to, I'm going to try to make this as succinct as possible, but it's not my forte. I have to honor.
We've heard.
Yeah. No, it's not a secret. The 12-year-old me, you know, because like the 12-year-old me right now is in awe of what I get to participate in right now. Like, I'm looking at people who like were heroes to me. You know what I mean? Like this little kid, and then being able to sit up here and look at people who are excited and moved and believe in this thing that like changed my life forever. It's a wonderful thing, and he's also terrified as well. So I want to call him out for what he is very honored and very terrified. My introduction actually was also the Dance Craze record. I remember we had my best friend in sixth grade was a guy named Tyler Jacobs, who, if you're an Aquabats fan, you know him as the Pig Bat, and if you're not, you're like, that's an unfortunate nickname. But we were gonna go toilet paper our friend Kyle Schaefer's house. And so we were waiting for his older brother, Christian, who was also known as the Bat Commander from the Aquabats, to come home. And Christian came home, and we were like, Christian, we need you to take us to go toilet paper Kyle's house. He's like, okay, wait just a second. From the stairs, you sitting there, you could look this way, and you could see right into Christian's room. Christian went into his room, and we were 12, and he was 17, something 16. He went into his room, sat down on his bed, started the Dance Craze tape, and just stared. And just stared and stared. And I was like, okay, I want to go. What do we list? Are we going to go? And so it was this mixture. And I just remember I had always been looking for something that sounded different. You know, like I loved, you know, K-Rock back in the day for what, you know, used to be called alternative music and things, but there was something lacking. There was also just a huge, and then he put on the Dance Craze, and I was like, it's real, it's interesting. There's I remember Stuart Copeland has this interview where he talks about, for some reason, everything's on 3, which doesn't, which is this like magical thing where you're like, is for Western ears is mind-boggling, but it's also so infectious, and it gives you like this off-kilter like holding point that is incredible. And from that moment, I was like, I need to know I need to listen. I need to know everything, because this is not something I'm hearing or feeling enough of with what comes through the radio, which I wasn't actually allowed to listen to anyway, because I was banned from secular music. That's a long story, but so I listened to that Dance Craze record over and over again. I mean, the selector had the most quirky, unbelievable choruses, on my radio, 3 minutes. It's just like all of a sudden they would change the world you were in with their choruses. And I was like, that's amazing, without losing the soul and the feel and the movement. And I was like, I gotta know how all of this works. And then we were talking about it, and he's like, there's bands that do this here in Orange County. And I was like, no. To make music, you have to be famous and wildly talented. And so he talked about Fishbone, Fishbone, for God's sakes. So I wanted to get that first record, but we couldn't find it because it was sold out at Sam Goody, And if you're wondering what Sam Goody is, he was just a good friend. But so I got the Truth and Soul record, which then opened up a whole bunch for this little kid at 12 years old. But it was like, then we got into the scene, and there were like, it was just, and like the Skeletones, death. It just, all of a sudden, this music that was groundbreaking didn't just come with a feel and a look. It came with a sense of community that I don't know exists like it does anywhere else except in the ska scene. It's a place where people look after one another. It's a place where there is no subculture. There's just people. And it was like beautiful and weird. And we had Hepcat, and we had, my band, Real Big Fish. And then we had, it's like, and then you talked about Let's Go Bowling. The Let's Go Bowling took us on our first tour. It's just like, it's just mind-blowing, and just it's again, and then it was like that opened up things to Desmond Decker, which was incredible, and I could go on. And then you go, there's ska bands all over the place. There's in Boston you've got these Boss Tone guys and all this other stuff, and it was like, it felt like from the moment I heard the first notes, there was like instant understanding and belonging that I had to be a part of. And I'm done.
Wonderful. Amazing stories, eh? So now we have questions for individuals. We asked everyone pretty much as an introduction. So Matt, true veteran of the stage, don't say anything until it complete. I complete my thought. Okay. So let's go back again. Math. Yeah, you see, he learned so fast. So how important were the California bands like the Untouchables and Fishbone, and that predated Donkey Show, and were there other American bands that you knew of that influenced your sound during that era?
So, one more time. American bands? Any bands?
Yeah, American bands. No, American bands.
American bands.
Because your band, one of the earlier bands that came on the scene.
I think I was probably like only like 14 or 15 the first time I saw the Untouchables play, and so they were definitely a big inspiration. And I remember they used to do one of my favorites that they used to do was a monkey song. What was it? It was Stepping Stone. Wow. Yeah, Stepping Stone, which is actually a Northwest garage classic. I'm sorry, I live in the Northwest now. I have a lot of Northwest. Untouchables, and of course Fishbone. I remember them too in junior high school. Like that EP, we had it on vinyl, not cassette, but like, yeah, that Fishbone EP was just like groundbreaking because it took ska, and it took even like the '60s ska and what the Specials did, and it just went further and crazier and harder, you know, and funkier. So yeah, those two. But you know, I think like Donkey Show, what we were trying to do was kind of like those influences were in there, but we were really also, there was a big part of the band that was really trying to get back to 1960s Jamaican ska, which nobody else was doing at the time, you know.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good. I love to hear that, going back.
Oh yeah, going back.
Yes, so the next question is for the drummers, Nina, Oliver, and Greg. Were we blessed in Southern California to have witnessed master drummer Lloyd Knibbs in action? Knibbs of the Scatterlights, one of the original members, and he's credited for coining ska. You know, most of the drummers in Jamaica used to play R&B drum, but he came up with that burro drum in '63, and the rest is history, so I'm told, right? So I'm just wondering if you guys interacted with him, and how has he influenced, if there's an influence in your style?
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Part of what Hepcat wanted to establish, or what we wanted to do, was capture the 60s sound. And luckily, every one of us in the band had come from that scene. So we all loved the old stuff, and we all tried to play the old stuff. And for me, I'm a self-taught drummer. I'm actually a lefty, too, so I forced myself to play a right-handed drum set. And when I got into ska and I heard the old ska for the first time, I was completely blown away, because I'm like, wait a second, what the heck is going on here? Because as a drummer, you're always used to kick, snare, kick, snare. And ska, there is no one. It's there, but you don't hear it. All you hear is the cross stick and the kick drum at the same time. And it took me forever to understand that and comprehend it. I mean, I would put my ear to the speaker and say, wait, he's not hitting on the 1 and 2 and 1 and 3. I mean, is that possible? Is that right? But it didn't matter because the music was so good. And it wasn't until I listened to Stretching Out, which is a live cassette or album from the Scatterlights, where I could finally hear Lloyd Knibbs drumming clearly and concisely. And sure enough, it was exactly what I thought. And that album alone, I listened to like thousands of times just to get that sound right. And I credit that recording and that recording alone as the foundation for my drumming. And of course, I never thought I would ever meet Lloyd Knibbs. But of course, we ended up touring with the Scatterlights in, what was that, 92, I believe, West Coast tour. And I'm telling you that, it was a 10-day tour, but that completely transformed the whole band. Everybody in our band got transformed by everybody in their band, because we all saw up front and in the flesh how ska was played, ska, rocksteady, reggae. And being like the newbies and like SoCal boys that we were, it's like we didn't want to try to be buddy-buddy with them because they were our idols, you know? So we were always just walking on eggshells around them. We didn't want to piss them off. We didn't want to, give them any bad impression. So me especially, Lloyd Knibbs was using my drum set. And I'm like, man, look at the sound he's getting from this thing. Those are my drums. I'm like, how is that possible?
You sound pretty good on them.
And
my favorite drummer.
Oh man, thank you. But a few days into the tour, we're in Santa Barbara, and we're there early for sound check, and he's setting up the drums and stuff, and I'm just there. And he looks at me, and he's sitting there, and he hits the kick drum a couple times, and then he just kind of has this sour look on his face, like, and I'm like, he's like, hey, you man? And I'm like, yes, Mr. Neb, what's up? He's like, why your bass drum, man? It go ploof, ploof. It's a bass drum, man. It have to go boom, boom, man. He's like, what's the matter with your bass? And I'm like, oh, shoot, I don't know. It's just my kick drum. I'm a self-taught drummer, so I didn't know anything about sound dynamics or projection or reverb or anything. And I always thought that you're supposed to deaden the kick drum with however much you can stuff in there. Sleeping bags, pillows, whatever. And my dad, being the inventor and innovator that he is, he figured out that he can take old foam from old couch cushions and just line the whole interior of the bass drum with that. So sure enough, yeah, that thing was dead as a doornail, right? But I thought it was cool. But here's Mr. Nib screwing his face like, And so he's like, let me take a look inside, man. And he goes in, peers around, and he's like, nah, man. So what you got in here? You know, and I was like, oh, shoot. And he's like, we have to do something about this, man. And he just goes in and he rips out all that foam. He's just, and I'm like, no, you know. I could just see my dad going, what are you doing? You know, and I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm not going to tell my dad. And he rips all that stuff in, and he just grabs like some towel from the stage, and he just folds it up and puts it right there. And that was the only dampening thing in the drum. And he goes and he hits that kick drum, and he's like, he had the most satisfied look on his face. It's like, yeah, man. If you go boom, boom, just like that, man. That's a kick drum, man. That's a bass. And I was like, shoot. I was like, I couldn't believe it. And so, like, yeah, I learned so much from Lloyd Knibbs. And I couldn't have pictured a better time to, like, bond with this guy. And it's still, like, a very distant bonding because, like I said, this guy's, like, my idol. It's like a god. And so, you know, I was cool with him. Like, I was like, dude, cool, you know, but I didn't try to shake his hand or anything and be like, oh, cool, man. You nailed that sound. Now we could be all buddy-buddy and, you know, have tacos together.
It sounds like that's what you really wanted, though.
I did, yeah. And, yeah, aside from that, I learned so many other things. There's one thing about ska music where it's like that signature ringing sound on the snare. You know, it's like you have to know how to hit it a certain way in order to get that. And I didn't know that for the longest time. And I asked him one time, I was on the same tour, I said, how do you get that snare sound? And he's like, give me your snare. And I was like, okay. And then he took my drum key. And man, he started torquing down that head. And I could hear my snare drum just like imploding on itself from all the pressure. He was just like, cranking and cranking and cranking. And I'm like, wait, no, it's too much. He's like, nah, man, this is it. And he's just like, and man, when he hit that thing, it was just like, tang. And I'm like, dude, no, shoot, that's the sound. And yeah, just little things like that, I just never forget. And so, like, yeah, obviously, number one inspiration. And I'm so thankful that we were able to tour with them because I don't think there would have been any other way for us to transform our sound to the sound that we wanted.
The rightness of time and the rightness of place. Los
right.
Angeles.
It's just you're in the right place at the right
tour.
time.
Wow.
You know, and it just happens. And it's just, these are moments I can never forget.
Excellent. Who goes next? No, it was a question specifically for the three drummers.
Okay. I remember that tour because I actually went and saw you guys at the Whiskey. Now, I got to hear Greg play and Lloyd play for the first time on the same night. And I remember that lineup. It was the Specs, the Scandals, Hepcat, and the Scotalites. Now, granted, it was all of the Scotalites, almost all of them. Ernest Ringland wasn't there, but all of the horn players were there, except for, of course, Don Drummond. But, man, with some of those other bands that were there, like the Scandal and the Specs, they were like more upbeat ska, you know, with kick and snare on 2 and 4 and on the 1 and all the stuff. Then I saw Hepcat, and I was like, holy shit, this is different. This is like the 60s style. And, you know, you had, you know, Greg and Alex and Destin doing their thing. And it was just so different from the other bands that I saw that night. And then, of course, you had the Scotalites come on. And you had Lloyd get up there. And you're talking about a bunch of bands that played before them that were essentially kids. I mean, teenagers, maybe a couple of guys in their early 20s. But then these guys got up and they fucking destroyed it. The power of Lloyd was incredible. It was incredible from the way that he hits. Like, I've studied those tapes and those records and stuff, especially Stretching Out. Stretching Out is that's the perfect record to listen to if you want to learn anything about how to play drums like Lloyd Knibb. It's where he hits his rim shot on the snare, you know. It's where he hits the snare. It's the fact that he plays with one of his sticks backwards. You know what I'm saying? It's the fact that hi-hat and snare are more of the dominant rhythm patterns while the kick drum kind of floats around. You know what I'm saying? So the first time hearing that, it was all around the same time that my band was starting out. And I remember going home after, it was in December of '92, I believe. Or no, was it February? December? Can't remember. Maybe February. And I remember going back to them and saying, I know that we have some upbeat stuff that we're doing, but we need to scratch all of that. We need to scratch all of that and do strictly 60s style Jamaican music. And man, you know, luckily we got to open for them a couple of times. And I got to hang out with him a couple times. In my studio at my house, I have a pair of his drumsticks that he used at the Knitting Factory that he signed right above my computer screen. So every time I'm working in the studio and I look up above my computer screen, I see his drumsticks right there, you know, and that's kind of like my, and then a set of my dad's drumsticks, like a couple, like a foot over, you know what I mean? That's not a diss to my dad, it's just, you know.
Amazing story. Drummer supreme.
Yes,
Nina.
Lloyd Knows was definitely a primary influence on my drumming, and I think it's just such an amazing time that I was alive to be able to experience seeing the Scotalites perform live when a lot of the members were still alive, and it was just such an incredible experience. I too had Stretching Out. I had it on cassette from Sound Stations in Westchester. And so, yeah, listening very closely, because in a lot of those old recordings, it was hard to hear, to pull the drums out. And in that recording, you could make it work. I had a drum teacher, Kate Carlson, and she was in an all-girl big band back in the 1940s. But I remember taking that recording to her to help me try to decipher it as well. Like, what am I hearing? How can I get this sound? Trying to get that rhythm. And so I know some of my bandmates are here from the cover-ups. And so in that band, that was my first ska band that I played in. We were an all-girl ska band. And we weren't straight ahead traditional. We had some two-tone influences. We also did some rock steady and early reggae. But listening to those Jamaican recordings, I think really influenced my style as a drummer and brought a lot to our sound as a band.
Were you fortunate enough to meet Lloyd?
I never got to meet him, but I did get to see him perform several times.
That's all right. Give her a round of applause. Just in case you guys, Paul, Karina, and Matt, you thought you guys were left out. So let's talk about the significance of the International Ska Festival and Earth Day celebration from April 1990. Talking about memory juggling. It's at the Greek Theatre, world famous Greek Theatre. I think Dancehall Crashers, Skeleton, and Donkey Show performed there as well, in addition to international bands like Bad Manners, Youngster, and a few others. Tell us about that experience.
All right. No, it's your turn.
Yeah, that was an amazing show. That was the Skeletones' first time playing in a festival of that magnitude, because it was the Greek Theater on Berkeley campus, you know, and
Thousands.
It was.
It's a 7,000. Was it
it?
7,000? I think capacity.
It seemed like 20 at the time.
It looks bigger, but I think it's about 7.
Yeah, it's a
looks huge.
awesome venue.
Yeah.
You know, we were actually, I was there not too long ago, but I remember that show, and there was so many elements to that show that I'll just make a condensed version. Our show that day, we played so well that I remember we acronymed SKA, Skeletones Kick Ass. When we were done with our set, we're all Skeletones Kick Ass. But that night,
You were amazing that day. You guys were-
well, I have that on recording too, the show. But that event, Adrian and Tom from No Doubt, we all like went there together, right? And Adrian's bus broke down, or his bug broke down, and now. Take in mind, we're Southern California, and San Francisco, Berkeley is a good 600 miles, 700 miles. It's pretty 400 miles, 450 miles or something. It's far. Adrian's bus breaks down, and he's like, "Hey guys, my bug is broken down. I can't get a ride. Can you guys give me a ride?" So we couldn't give him a ride in our car because it was full. But Bernie, at the time, our road guy, he had a truck, right? So he's like, "Hey, you guys can ride in the back of my truck." So Adrian and Tom ride in the back of a truck from San Francisco to Orange County. But that's the diehardness. Everyone flocked to that event because you had Bad Manners, it was Special Beat, or was it Special Beat? Then
Let's
it was
Go Bowling,
Let's Go.
Uptones, Liquidators, and the list goes on.
Yeah, and it was just the most amazing festival. I remember, that right there, I think, is what really kind of solidified the bands that were coming up then, because none of us had really played at that type of a venue before, at that caliber, And then it was just the after parties. The whole thing was just like, hey, this is what it's all about. Kind of just like, the community that we all had, that we all shared, like Scott was saying. It really was communal. All of us. Adrian driving a bug to San Francisco. And they weren't even playing. So it was a very awesome experience, and that is definitely in the top 5 in my mind.
Wonderful.
Of, venues and concerts and experiences.
Karina, I know you've been anxious to touch a microphone.
What was that?
Same question.
Yeah, it was amazing, fun show. I remember a lot about it. Also, I remember you guys, and you guys, Donkey Show, and because we were centered in the Bay Area. Elise, the other singer for Dancehall Crashers, is from Orange County, and so she'd seen some of you guys more, and was telling me about bands, and I'd actually seen both of you guys play before, but Donkey Show and Skeletones, but it was terrifying because it's a really big venue, and it kind of solidified this moment that I think, anyway, I felt, which was that we were in a small ska band playing small venues, and maybe a few hundred people, and obviously there was a big scene, but this kind of concept that it could actually be in this massive venue, and that there maybe were going to be some legs to this type of music, which of course ended up being going places, and lots of people got signed and to majors, and all these things happened years later, but at the time it was sort of shocking to see that. And Bad Manners, The Beat were huge, they'd been big, but it kind of there was Me, Mom, and Morgenthaler were there too from Canada. I'd never seen them. They were incredible. And just to see this sort of wide variety of ska bands and different styles, and Liquidators were trying to do more of a trad thing. And then just like the wide variety of different kinds of music within this same scene, and the community was just awesome to see. It was thrilling, and I was terrified, and we did not play very well. In my memory. Maybe I'm wrong. My memory was that I was pretty terrified because it was
I
such
did
a big show. I was like, I think it was early on for me being in the band too. So
You guys
it's
sounded
like,
great. I'm sure it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
You
it
guys
was- it
always
was-
sounded great.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
You guys
Matt.
sounded great.
Okay. So that was actually a really exciting show for me. It was actually the Donkey Show's last performance. We did not know that it was going to be. But the band was kind of falling apart, and our front man, and as well as our trombonist, I think, had left the band. And our front man, Ray Campbell, you might know him from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, he had quit the band, but this promoter from 924 Gilman, who put this whole thing on, if I remember right, he really wanted the old Donkey Show back together. So he flew Ray up separately to play this gig, and Ray agreed to do this, this one last gig with us. And but when it was kind of like, it was getting close to our slot, the show managers came to us and said, "You guys got to go on early." And I was like, "What? Our singer's not, our frontman's not here yet, right?" And he's like, just got off his plane. He's at the BART, and like, you know how far the San Francisco airport is from Berkeley, right? And we're like, we can't. But they said, you got to play now or you don't get to play. So I was like, all right. So we get out there, we're getting ready to go, and of course we took our time, but we opened the show, and we were playing with Jackie Starr from Bim Scala Bim then as well, and so we were opening with Also Sprach Zarathustra, right? So we're just doing this like big 2001 intro before we like burst into Ballet Island, and like there's thousands of people out there. It's the middle of the day, and there's thousands of people out there, and we come to the big crescendo of that that theme. Dun, 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 dun. And then Ray comes running out onto the stage, and we burst into Ballet Island. It was absolutely perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
So 1990 was really an incredible year for
Yeah.
many of you. Wonderful. Mm. This is directed to Scott specifically. So Scott, in the 1990s, you played in Knuckle Brothers and Scholars. How did this scene differ from then to when Real Big Fish came on the scene and Little Big Band, and I think you played in some other similar bands at the time?
Yeah, it's a joy of being a horn player. You get to play in everyone's band.
Not everyone's.
Yeah, well,
Except
not
Dancehall.
everybody's. Not
Except
everybody's.
Dancehall Crashers.
Yeah, it's for sure. No, it's that was. Well, and the funny thing is I think when I started playing in the scene, I was, like 14, and most of these cats were like in their 20s. So I had to like really, I learned a lot from a lot of people, and everybody was just, it was, what I like about that time was, there was the Knuckle Brothers. There was a band called the Goodwin Club. Like the Orange County scene was really weird in the way that everybody was taking, their own approach to ska music, and it was like no bands really kind of sounded the same. And it's like, same with like the Riverside crew, and everybody was just like everybody kind of was doing something a little differently, and it was neat to learn from everybody too. And as a young kid who was like, thrown in with a lot of grown people, it was like, everybody was, there was a certain amount of hazing that happened that I don't think this is the venue for, but like it was also like, I felt really looked after as a little kid. Except for the time when the Knuckle Brothers made me drive as a 15-year-old because everybody was too hungover from Palookaville and Santa Cruz back to Huntington Beach because no one was sober enough to drive. But that's a whole other thing.
Yes.
And that's the story I can tell. But yeah, it was tight-knit. Everybody, everybody showed up to everybody's show. It's that thing that you were talking about with that festival. Like, if there was a ska show going on, you showed up. And you showed up early. You caught every band. It didn't matter if you knew they were good or bad. You were there to support, because most of the time the bands came from the audience. It was like somebody who stood there and saw somebody doing something and were like, I want to do that. And then it was like, okay, and they came up, hey, I've got a band, here's my tape that we made in our garage. And then somewhere between like Led Zeppelin covers and what have you, there were like then ska songs, and we wrote these, and it's like, cool, we'll play a show. Like we had, we were just talking about recently, one of the problems we're facing right now, is we used to have very daring show promoters. They would put there was a place that was a dance studio that after it was no longer a dance at night, they would throw shows. And so like they would have a bunch of what was the name of that joint? Cafe Nove. Thank you so kindly. Cafe Nove was like where I played some of my very first shows, and depending on the night, I played 3 or 4 times, but it was like,
John Pantel did a show at a bowling alley.
Yeah, it was like that was when things started going off the hook. It was like, they're like, we're gonna play, there was this roller rink called Side by Side in Huntington Beach, and they had a side room, and we started putting on shows there. And then they're like, well, I bet we could put shows on the actual roller rink, and that's a whole other thing too. But it was like we found anywhere and everywhere to play. Like we made a show where there shouldn't have been a show, and people showed up. It was real Field of Dreamy. But no one was showing up. No fire marshals. No and these were all ages gigs. Yeah. That's the thing that I was a 14-year. I remember when Real Big Fish really started. We started coming up to LA, or we would start doing bars and stuff like that. I used to have to be carried on someone's back to the stage because I wasn't old enough to set foot in the bar. But they could take me from the back through the kitchen all the way on somebody's back, piggyback, which I can tell you when you're trying to impress girls doesn't really do it. But we had all of these places that were ours. It didn't belong to some person who didn't give a shit about the scene, didn't give a shit about who showed up. This was stuff that we took charge of in a way. The people who were I may not be, people. Some of it was people in bands who would put these places together, and some of it was just people who loved the scene. And it belonged to us, which I think in this day and age is a really rare thing to feel. Yeah. Is that a music scene or a community isn't something that is owned by a larger corporate interest. It's this is ours, and we'll make it work the way we want it to work.
Nice. Give him a round of applause, please. Yeah. Yep. Karina, the next question is for you, but I want to take a quick moment, just a real quick moment, to ask you guys to give Louis. He's one of the early promoters in Los Angeles. Any other promoter here? I arrive on the scene late. I just know of any other promoter in here. Really, big up yourself. Enough respect. During the early days when no one actually knew what this music was, they took the chances. Enough respect to Louis. Now, Miss Karina, Dancehall Crashers toured with Madness. That must have been larger than life. And their reunion tour back in 1998. Please talk about what you remember most about that tour in particular.
Say the last part again.
What you remember most about that tour.
Well, I was thrilled.
Besides speaking the same language like them, English accent.
Yeah. Well, I was thrilled, wasn't I? So it was brilliant. No, I was totally thrilled. We actually played the Henry J. Kaiser in Oakland on my birthday, so it was extra exciting. And Blink played, but for me to see Madness in person, because I had grown up with them in England, I had seen Bad Manners, I'd seen The Beat, I'd seen the Specials, but I hadn't seen Madness. So for me, it was just epic. And didn't you guys play on the one in LA? Yeah, we played at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yes. No, it was the Universal Amphitheater.
Universal Amphitheater. That's right.
That was Hepcat, Royal Crown Review, and then Madness.
Yeah, and it was super epic for me. I just was such a fan as a younger person in England, and so I seeing Suggs in real life, and it was just the whole thing was, of course, I don't know what else to say. It was my memory of it, trying to talk to Suggs backstage and seeing his family, and that was kind of weird because they all seemed really old at that time to us, because it was like, wow, this is what they really look like. But yeah, I know. But now it's funny. But I was just totally thrilled. It just felt like a dream come true to me.
Wonderful.
Just loved it.
Round of applause for her.
They're such a good band. I think they're underrated, actually. I think they're underrated. Their musicianship is really epic, and I think they get kind of put into this category of being like a little bit too poppy or something that people don't like actually acknowledge how good they are as musicians, as well as.
I love Madness.
Yeah,
I mean,
amazing.
I've got
They're
like
amazing.
all their records.
They're amazing, yeah.
Tons of them.
Greg, your turn, sir. So you had taken a hiatus from Hip Cat during the Madness tour, and you did attend the show at Universal Amphitheater. Can you share what you remember from that particular show?
Were you jealous? You
No,
weren't
he
on
is.
stage?
Yeah.
It was a tough time for me because I had left in '97 to finish college.
Oh.
And so the band going on without me was really hard.
I can imagine.
And I tried as much as I could to just focus on school and not have anything to do with the band because it was so heartbreaking for me that I was apart from them. So I'm like, I don't want to see them. So somehow, for this show, I was given passes because of Madness, of course, but I knew Hepcat was playing. So I made it a point to show up after they played because I didn't want to see them with someone else up on the stage.
Some of your band members are here, right?
It was too much, man. It's like when you're with a girlfriend for a long time and then you break up and you don't want to break up, but you have to.
But you broke up.
Yeah.
You left the band. We were mad at you too. We were all mad at you, and I'm not even in your band.
The worst part is I show up there and I made it a point to go in after they played their last song. And I'm like relieved. I'm like, oh, okay, good. I don't have to see them. I don't want to see the band without me up there because it just doesn't make sense. I walk in and people in the crowd recognize me. They're like, dude, Greg Narvis, you're here, but you're not up there. What the fuck? And I'm like, dude, don't even, just whatever. And I just wanted to go backstage and just disappear. And so, like, it was weird to see them back there, because they had just come, I think you guys just came back from a tour or something. But these guys were so vibrant and full of energy, and it's just like, man, here I am all downtrodden from college and graphic design, all-nighters, running on vapors. And these guys are all like, hey, Greg, what's up? Everyone's all in shape and like, glowing. And, yeah, we just got back from whatever. And I'm like, dude, you guys went to, like, Australia and, like, all these other places. And here I am stuck at Cerritos College. And I'm like, oh, my God. Where people recognize me.
You left the band.
For once. Nobody ever cares about drummers, but it just so happens when I go to Cerritos College in 1998, all these people are like, holy shit, it's Greg Narvis. What the fuck are you doing here, man? Like,
you're a
the
celebrity.
band's out on the road, dude. And I'm like, and I hated telling people what I did. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so Madness, right? The last time I had seen Madness before that was 86. At the the Palladium? Anyway. So, of course, they were phenomenal back then, but, of course, 1998, I was like, holy shit, it's Madness, yes. And so out comes Madness, and I'm like, oh, man, here we go. And the Universal Amphitheater is just packed. And I went out into the pit, and I was like, yeah, fuck this, dude. I'm going to the front, man. I want to see this, every single thing, just absorb it. And sure enough, man, from the very first note all the way to the end, they sound exactly like I wanted them to sound. Just like the album, every single note, the energy, the vibe, everything was just pure madness, right? In that pit with me are some veteran rude boys, right? Everybody brought out their old trench coats, their old stingy brims, and like, man, I was just in heaven. I was like, holy shit, all these people are bringing out their old clothes. Some of them didn't really fit into them, but they tried to do it anyway. They're just like, fuck this, man, fucking Madness, dude. I'm just Yeah, it still fits, but whatever. But yeah, all of us vet rude boys are out there, and they play the song Baggy Trousers, right? I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with that song, but there's one line in there where it says, lots of girls and lots of boys, lots of smells and lots of noise. On the recording, when they say noise, you hear a bunch of people in the background going, oi, at the same time they say noise. And I tell you, during that song, when they sang that line and they got to that noise part, everyone says, oi. Me, the Rudy next to me, and all the other Rudies in that pit, we all jump at the same time, fists in the air, and we're like, oi! And I mean, now it sounds so cheesy, like, oi, But back then, it was like a moment stuck in time. Like all of us with all our energy, just all united, all thinking the same thing. And I remember floating above that sea of heads like this, and Rudy next to me, and looking across that sea of heads, and everybody else that was in the air at the time were all Rudies. Stingy brims, trench coats, and I looked around and I'm just like, holy shit, we're all thinking the same thing. That's how much the song meant to us. That's how much the music meant to us, that we couldn't contain ourselves. We just had to do that one thing. And we're acting as a single unit. And that's the crazy thing about the ska scene and ska music in general. It's a community. We all support each other. I mean, and when it comes to the music, it unifies all of us. And I can't picture anything else that's as powerful as that. And it's crazy because it's just music, right? But it's so much more than that. It's just so penetrating, and it's so it's so powerful. I don't know how else to say it. And so, yeah, that was the most memorable moment. And I don't know if any of you guys know, but the guy that was next to me, he had a trench coat that was reputably had the most buttons on it. I mean, it's just like ska chainmail, just a big old shield. And someone told me his name. It's a Latino dude. He's older. What's that? Oh, okay, Big Ed. So is he still around? Oh, Eddie Lopez. Okay, excellent. He was next to me, and that guy, yeah, I'm telling you, man, it was so crazy that both of us jumped up in tandem, and we're just like, oh, slow motion. It just, I don't know. It was crazy, crazy moment, and that right there is the most memorable moment to me.
Thanks. Round of applause. Now, you guys are not going to believe this. We are catastrophically out of time. We're going to have part 2. I kid you not. But we're going to open the floor for some questions. I don't want to get stoned up here and think I'm a fool. So we're going to open up for some questions. How we doing time-wise? Nice. Let there be light. Thank everyone for coming out. My goodness. Well, how you guys remember all the exact concert, the exact shout? I mean, legends in the house. Too many to call the names. Wow.
There's a question over there.
Yeah. Bubba, stand where we want to see you, man. You need my microphone? We don't need microphone. I think your voice is loud enough. Big respect. Thanks for coming out. You look at me?
Thank you.
No, your question wasn't directed to me.
Who's going to start? Greg? You want me to? We'll go this way now? All right. Thank you so much for your question. Yeah, I have my own project, which is called The Littlest Man Band. It's a lot of fun. Still a big horn section, Always room in the horn section, my friend. And then I've been doing this thing since recently, which is I've started doing a creative coaching, which is making sure that people keep creativity alive in their lives. And being a creative person for 30 years, you pick up little tricks and things and realize how important it is to for me, it's important to my survival as a human being. Like, I don't get to be where I am today and know how to be helpful and useful and participate in any of this without my ability to first have like unbridled creativity that then goes through and gets into individuation and instinct and changing things and then creating into artistry. But I feel like there's a lot of people who, especially nowadays, don't value. They think, you know, you're too grown up for that sort of thing. And so I don't have to teach anybody theory. That's the point. I don't want to teach anybody theory. So, yeah. But yeah.
Well, I'll say the Skeletones you might see us, maybe. Everybody's doing, you know how it is. We all have, you know, lives and, you know, the reverie hasn't left completely, but we'll see. Keep your fingers crossed.
I just wanted to say that my band, Ocean 11, will be playing on the 25th at the Lodge Room in support of Western Standard Time with Jesse Wagner. Is that you? I think that's you. Yeah.
Who else working on project?
All right.
Maybe
So I've been doing since the pandemic ska fitness. Yay. You can find me on YouTube, Ska Fitness. And also, if you happen to be in the Bay Area, I do live sessions at the Knockout, which is a bar. So you can enjoy a full bar and get your workout on. I do that actually this Friday, coming up. So that's what's been going on.
Wine and workout?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Some literal whining. And I DJ. My current night is on hiatus, but looking to start another DJ night in the new year. And that's about it for me.
Project you're working on?
So I've been playing keyboards and singing with no effects, which is a bit random, but keeping the punk alive, something. And I get to do many other projects. I have a project which is just my name, Karina Denike, which is a 6-piece group, sometimes less, doing original music that I write. And I'm in a bunch of bands in the Bay Area, a band called the Red Room Orchestra, which has played here with Jesse and joined us, Jesse Wagner. I'm also in a band called the Cottontails, which is kind of a swing, ska, not so much ska, but swing and jazz and stuff like that. Jump blues, that kind of music in the 20s and the 30s. And then I'm just finished a few guest spots with the Western Standard Time guys and Jesse Wagner's new holiday album. So I get to do a lot of little different projects like that. So I've been busy with music.
Anyone else?
So I'm actually doing a master's in physics right now, so I'm a little busy. But I've been kind of low key working on a project with my beautiful partner, and it's called Sparkle Heart because we found love on the internet. So maybe someday you'll get a little taste of that.
Scott, did you speak?
Oh, I already went.
Okay.
I'll go again, but no.
Yeah, next time.
Jarvis?
Yeah, we're playing every now and then, Hepcat. And, we just came back from a 2-day stint in Japan, which was phenomenal. Wow. If you guys haven't been to Japan, I highly, highly recommend it. That experience just turned my world upside down.
I second
It's
that.
ridiculous.
I haven't been there.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
wonderful.
That was your guys' first time being over there, right?
yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Amazing.
And wow, yeah. If you go, Google Translate and Google Maps are your best friends. Oh, I'm serious, man.
Are you playing any shows, any other shows in this country? Hepcat?
We have something lined up. I'm not sure what, but I will tell you, though, we are recording, too, so that's a cool thing. What I love about the band is we have these, spurts of creativity and just spontaneity where it's like all of a sudden you just come out with new songs. And that's what I love about the chemistry of Hepcat, you guys. And yeah. So it's always a joy to finally get something down on wax. And
You're still on wax?
yes, it's like these round black things that you put a needle in and it plays. Wonderful music.
Hepcat, my favorite band of all time.
Oh,
right
boy.
after you and the Specials.
Thank you.
It's true.
I'm humbled. But yeah, it's always good to record, because from that point on, you know that you have a permanent record of something that you did and that you put all your love and heart and soul into. And that's the one thing I love about being up here, with these guys and girls, is that it's so obvious that the love is there. We all have a passion for this, and that's what makes this so incredible, is that you're actually able to hold not just one panel, but several panels for the history of LA Ska, So I'm very thankful.
You summed up the night.
Yeah.
Wow, took my job.
That's
Eric. God, I better go look for something else to do with my life. Now, I have spent the entire evening up here just trying to hold back tears, especially when they talk about Nibs, who really and truly changed the course of Jamaican music. And never once did I look at the clock, and I'm supposed to look at the clock. We have a hard stop at 9 o'clock. So, but here's what. We're going to have a part 2. Can someone second that? It's got to be a part 2. Can someone second that? That's what I'm talking about. You hear that, Mr. Cola? Come up here, man, and take a bow. Eric Cola. Say many things, not just one thing.
Just real quick, let's give a big round of applause to Junor Francis, the best MC, host, genuinely amazing man, and all of our panelists, and all of you for making your effort to come out tonight. Junor, back to you.
And come out to the Mermaid.
No, continue talking. Where are we going after this?
Oh yes, let's all head over to the Mermaid in Little Tokyo for a little after party. A lot of familiar faces here tonight. And then also, and also we're going to do a quick photo for any other musicians or DJs that are out here. We'll do a quick group shot, which we'd love to do. So again, thank you all, Junor. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. And until next time. Junor, any final words?
No, there's no need for me to say anything else. Everything has been said. Really and truly want to thank every one of you for coming out. And in particular, the Grammy for creating this space. Yeah, thank you. Can you imagine if my grandmother, who is now resting in eternity, would know that her grandson, who spent 20 years of his life riding donkey, is in the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles? She'll be proud, eh? Yeah, man. So thanks to the Grammy Museum, the staff. They've been magnificent, wonderful. And I say that without apology. And to everyone who is here, thanks for your participation. And Eric, I'm putting you in a spot we're going to have a part 2. That's right. Well, those of you who are going home, please arrive at your respective destinations safely. If you're going to the Mermaid, I'm going to see you momentarily. On the Wheels of Steel, who we have tonight? Nina? Yes. Mm-hmm. Matt?
Yeah, man.
All right.
I'm going to play a special little mini set of LA Classic 45, so, you LA people should be there.
Not to be missed. Thanks again.
And Matt, maybe for the outro, you have a little instrument on you?
I don't know, aren't there, copyright issues?
You can just...
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Again, thank you all.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, that's enough.